This movie begins with a man called Frank Vega. Frank has led a challenging life, including being a veteran of the Vietnam War. Frank is quietly riding a bus one day when he notices two young miscreants creating a disturbance, making him reminisce about his simpler life as a youngster with his parents. He had a beloved sweetheart, and they planned to marry when he returned from the Vietnam War, which he ended up serving for a decade. To his dismay, his sweetheart had married another man and started a family upon his return, leaving Frank heartbroken. Frank tries to join the police academy, hoping his military experience would give him an advantage, but they reject him. Unable to secure employment elsewhere, he resorts to a life of selling hot dogs to earn a living. But then his business is threatened by a new hot dog truck that takes most of his customers, forcing Frank to wander aimlessly without a stable home or job, a poor turn of events for him. Skipping ahead to the present day, Frank becomes an unexpected hero when he intervenes the same two troublemakers from earlier on the bus, who were creating chaos and posing a threat to an elderly passenger. Frank's heroism is captured on video and widely shared on social media, making him an overnight sensation and earning him the nickname Badass. His newfound fame leads to public recognition, media appearances, and even themed merchandise. Frank and his mother are invited to a talk show before she passes away 3 months later, leaving him her house and pet dog. Around this time, a fellow Vietnam veteran named Klondike Washington moves in with Frank and hands him a USB flash drive intended for his deceased mother's safety deposit box. However, Frank is unaware of its contents and stores it away for safekeeping. One evening, Klondike goes out to buy cigarettes and encounters the familiar troublemakers, Terrence and Sebastian. This is where the story takes an intriguing turn. Upon receiving a USB stick from Klondike, his companion Frank is misled by Klondike's fib that the flash drive is not currently with him. This intrigues a duo of thugs, leading to an intense quarrel. Regrettably, the situation turns dire as Klondike is murdered by the pair, who manage to escape swiftly. When news regarding his dear friend's death reach Frank, he rushes to the morgue, views Klondike's deceased body, and insists on an in-depth investigation into his murder. Frank's friend, Officer Milwaukee, informs him that the police force is conducting their best efforts to capture Klondike's killer. However, Frank later notices on the news that other crimes have been swiftly solved, contrasting with the slow progress on his friend's case. Outraged and observing their lackluster efforts, Frank takes the responsibility of solving the case himself. His initial inspection takes him to the alleyway where Klondike was shot. Upon thorough examination, he discovers empty shells of bullets and a locket containing a woman's photograph. Frank theorizes this could be a potential lead. Upon taking his findings to a pawn shop, the shopkeeper identifies the locket as belonging to a criminal named Terrence, with the photograph inside being that of Terrence's spouse. Armed now with Terrence's residential address, Frank quickly heads over, but unfortunately, Terrence is absent. His spousal counterpart reveals that Terrence hasn't been home for a whole week and used to play basketball with his friends at a local park. Frank swiftly drives to the park and spots a group of lads engrossed in a game of basketball. He approaches them, thinking they might know Terrence's whereabouts. However, instead of accommodating Frank, they begin to jeer at him. This ignites Frank's anger, resulting in a scuffle. It emerges that these young men were actually friends with Terrence. Under duress, they eventually become cooperative. They reveal their ignorance concerning Terrence's whereabouts, but they refer to a chap named Ronaldo, who may be in the know because Terrence and Ronaldo are chums. So, Frank sets off to Ronaldo's dwelling and meets Ronaldo's housemate. This housemate informs Frank that Ronaldo is at a pub elsewhere in the city. Frank heads to the pub, but encounters some hostile locals who are opposed to his presence. Unperturbed, Frank takes it upon himself to put them in their place. Then he finally locates Ronaldo and gives him a small fright by threatening to reveal Terrence's location. Ultimately, Frank discovers that Terrence is romantically involved with a woman named Tanya. Now the narrative shifts to a powerful mob boss named Panther, who is the superior of Terrence and Sebastian. Those two ne'er-do-wells. Panther has a serious conversation with Major Williams, the town's corrupt mayor. The mayor is piling on the pressure for Panther to quickly recover a flash drive stolen by Klondike, which contains evidence of his misdeeds and corruption while in office. Apparently, Klondike used to be employed by Panther, but he absconded with the mayor's crucial flash drive, betraying his former boss in the process. So, Frank undertakes a mission, aided by his neighbor, a lad named Martin. They are keen to discover the contents of the purloined flash drive. One night, Frank visits Tanya, who is employed at a massage parlor. He questions her about Terrence's whereabouts, but she proves uncooperative. Consequently, Frank tails her inconspicuously as she returns home from work. Upon sneaking into Tanya's home, Frank finally locates Terrence. Resorting to strong-arm tactics, Frank tries to extract information about who authorized the hit on Klondike. Reluctant to spill the beans, Terrence resorts to force, causing pain to Terrence by mashing his hand onto the kitchen bin. Ultimately, this proves effective, and Terrence spills his guts. As it turns out, Klondike has landed himself in deep water by crossing the wrong crowd, a drug overlord named Panther. Klondike has stolen the previously mentioned flash drive, which contained classified information about an oil well planted for their neighborhood by Major Williams. Terrence even directs Frank to Panther's whereabouts. Panther retreats to prepare himself, however. He is interrupted by a ruckus at a local residence, the Martins. Amber. Martin's mother is suffering at the hands of her violent husband. It's Frank who steps in and rescues her from the distressing situation. He is, after all, our protagonist. Invited by Amber to share a meal, he doesn't hesitate to don his finest attire, prepare himself accordingly, and smell good. A romantic atmosphere blossoms during their luncheon, leading them near to sharing an embrace when they are interrupted by an unexpected entrance of Martin Jr. Frank proposes that both Amber and Martin seek refuge at his flat until the repair of her damaged entrance. Following day, Frank provides Officer Millark with the flash drive. After he sets out to unravel Panther's hideout. However, Panther had gotten a whiff of Frank's imminent arrival and ordered his crew to set a trap for him, assuming he didn't have the precious flash drive. This puts Frank in an extremely challenging position. Panther's gang overwhelms him, causing him to lose consciousness. They imprison him and implement severe measures to extract the info about the flash drive's location. They even resort to utilizing an electric shock device in their attempts to make him reveal his knowledge. But, you see, Frank is a resilient fellow. He remains steadfast in his refusal to succumb even under severe duress. Panther is infuriated by Frank's silence, impulsively reaches for Frank's wallet and discovers his residential address, leading him to speculate about the flash drive's whereabouts. Whilst Panther's group continue to torment Frank, Panther hastily heads towards Frank's residence in the hope of locating the flash drive. However, Frank finds a way free from his restraints, using a match given to him by Amber. He ignites the match and hurls it towards surrounding oil drums, resulting in a massive explosion. Recognizing the danger, Panther flees, but not without Frank in hot pursuit. A fierce chase ensues, leading to destruction of nearby vehicles and ultimately resulting in wreckage for both. However, Frank remains relentless, continuing the pursuit on foot. He encounters two previous antagonists from the bus who, in an attempt to redeem their actions, try to film themselves assaulting Frank. Nonetheless, Frank manages to keep them at bay and press on with his chase. Upon reaching Frank's house, Panther discovers Amber and threatens her to coerce Frank into revealing the flash drive's whereabouts. Yet, Frank returns just in time and engages in a fight with Panther that spills over to the front yard. As Panther prepares to attack Frank again, Amber intervenes, struggling to impede Panther, which provides Frank with the opportunity he requires to conclusively subdue Panther. Finally, the authorities apprehend both Panther and Major Williams, adding further intrigue. The press exposes their questionable activities. As for Frank, Amber, and Martin, they then proceed to relish in their triumphant joy unendingly. Therefore, the lesson we glean from this narrative is that occasionally, all that's necessary to expose deceit and defeat the villains is a courageous individual clad in a hot dog costume, backed up by a little community support. We wrap up our recap by extending a warm invitation for you to show some love to our channel. Hit that like button, subscribe if you enjoy our content, and feel free to recommend other movies you'd like us to break down for you.